Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're tackling something really curious. A contradiction, actually, right at the heart of modern gaming.
Oh yeah? What's that?
Well, on one side, you've got this game, Ratchet Clank, Rift Apart, huge hit, right, innovative, sold loads, people love playing it, pure fun.
Mm-hmm. Definitely a success story on paper.
Yeah.
Critically acclaimed, too.
Exactly. But then on the other side, you have this real concern bubbling up from the longtime fans. People worried about the future of the whole series because of this successful game.
Ah, right. That paradox. How can something so good, so successful, millions sold, big profits, actually spark fear that the series might be fading? It's fascinating.
It really is. It makes you wonder, what happens when that fan passion bumps up against the realities of the industry, against profit? Does success in one area automatically mean trouble somewhere else?
It's a great question, and it forces a more meaningful conversation about what success even looks like now. Is it just sales, or is it something more?
Precisely. And that's the knot we want to untangle today. We're diving deep into Ratchet & Clank. Rift Apart. We've got a good mix of sources here. Fan chats from Reddit, developer interviews via The Gamer, gameplay breakdowns from PowerPix, the official PlayStation site info, plus sales data and reviews from places like Xputer and Wikipedia.
So the mission is really to unpack this seeming contradiction. How can a game that made, $64 million in profit also make diehard fans worry about the series' survival?
Yeah, we'll get into those fan anxieties, look at the tough realities of making games these days, but also celebrate what made Rift Apart so special.
Right. We want to spark some curiosity about how the gaming industry is changing, maybe build a little tension around the future of these classic characters we love, and sort of raise the stakes for everyone, developers and players. Let's have that meaningful conversation.
Okay, so let's start with the fans. This feeling, this tension, it really kicks off with their dilemma. Is Rift Apart's success actually a problem for Ratchet & Clank?
Where do we start?
Let's look at Reddit. There's this user, VonDiesel2000, calls themselves a diehard RNC fan. Their main worry, the big one, is these huge gaps between games now.
Right, the waiting time.
Yeah, they're talking potentially 4 to 7 years between new Ratchet & Clank titles after Rift Apart, and they compare that to the PS2 days.
When it felt like there was a new one almost every year. Yeah.
Exactly. Every year, they said. So this feels like a massive shift.
And it's not just impatience, is it? It's like that faster release schedule was part of the series' DNA for a long time, kept the universe feeling current.
Right, a continuous thing. So these long breaks feel wrong to fans like VonDiesel2000, creates real unease about where the series is heading long term.
Yeah, it makes you question what continuity even means when development takes so incredibly long now.
And the reason they think this is happening is really interesting. They point directly at Sony owning Insomniac now.
Ah, the studio ownership factor.
Yeah. And Insomniac's huge success with Spider-Man and the upcoming Wolverine game. The argument is these massive Marvel licenses, they pull in, what do they say, triple what your flagship characters make?
So the fear is Ratchet gets pushed aside.
Exactly. Put Ratchet to the wayside. It really raises the stakes, Are these original characters now fighting for scraps against the superheroes?
That's such a key point, and it's happening everywhere, not just with Insomniac. When a studio hits massive gold with a licensed IP.
Like Marvel.
Right. The business logic, the sheer financial pull to focus resources there, it's huge. Fans see that, even if they love Ratchet & Clank.
They worry it becomes like a side project.
Yeah, passion project, maybe not the main event anymore. And that tension between the business reality and the emotional connection fans have is palpable.
And digging into Rift Apart itself, fans noticed things they felt were compromises. VonDiesel2000 mentioned missing familiar characters.
Like who?
Captain Quark, for instance. They love characters like him. The Tick, Zap Brannigan types. But also Tallwyn, Rusty Pete.
Okay, some of the recurring supporting cast.
Right. And VonDiesel2000's point was, okay, maybe Quark wasn't really in Deadlocked much either, but back then a new game wasn't far off. Now with these huge weights, their absence feels bigger.
That makes sense.
They even said Rift Apart could have been a bit more. Compared it to older games like A Crack in Time or Going Commando, suggesting maybe resources were stretched thin. Untapped potential.
It taps into how important that supporting cast is for longtime fans. They're part of the furniture, Their absence feels like something's missing, especially if you've waited years. It raises that question, does innovation sometimes mean losing things people loved?
And it wasn't just characters. Game length was another big one. Multiple Redditors called it short.
Less than 15 hours, yeah.
Yeah, for a full-price game. That sparked debate. One comment even said it felt like it could have easily been a DLC, except that precious full game price tag. Ouch.
That hits on the value proposition, doesn't it? With games costing more and taking longer to make, players expect a certain amount of playtime for their money.
Especially if the next one is years away.
Exactly. A shorter game, even a great one, can feel like less bang for your buck when you know the wait for more is going to be long. It magnifies that feeling.
Then there's the type of content. A user named Aniwalker reviewed it and felt it lacked enough side stuff.
Like minigames.
Yeah, specifically mentioned no races or skill points to do on each planet, things that were staples in older games. They liked the pocket dimensions and finding golden bolts, but felt it just couldn't capture what the old games did.
Interesting. So there were collectibles, but they didn't scratch the same itch as those classic side activities for some players.
Right, it's about the specific kind of optional content, not just having any optional content.
Yeah, it shows how attached players get to certain gameplay loops within a series. How much can you change before it feels different, especially to the hardcore fans?
Visually, there was some debate, too. Some Nebula 9218 missed the old PS2 style. They felt Ratchet didn't need to have human proportions and realistic teeth back then. They argued Insomniac should have kept the look closer to the originals instead of trying to make cartoons realistic.
The art style debate. Higher fidelity versus stylized charm. It's a classic tension as tech improves.
Yeah, should they push realism just because they can? Or does the original, more cartoony style hold up better, feel more timeless?
It's a valid point. Sometimes that pursuit of realism can date faster than a strong, stylized look. It's that conflict between tech ambition and sticking to an original aesthetic vision.
And the game's flow got some critique. Users Majeji and some Nebula 9288 found there was almost non-stop dialogue and hints during gameplay.
Too much hand-holding.
Kind of.
Yeah.
They wished for dialogue options or just the ability to skip cutscenes like in older games. I felt it interrupted the pacing, made it feel less like their adventure.
That's a common design challenge now. Developers want that cinematic feel, ensure everyone gets the story beats.
But some players just want to play, right?
Yeah, exactly. Or control the pace themselves, especially on replays. It can feel restrictive if the game talks at you too much.
Then there's core mechanics. User Aster6000 wondered why Insomniac seemed to remake things like Ratchet's double jump from scratch.
Instead of reusing existing stuff.
Yeah. Their point was, why not just copy the mechanics over and spend that dev time on new levels, new assets? They also felt the swing shot never felt as smooth as it did way back in games up to Deadlocked.
The if it ain't broke argument. It touches on technical debt and iteration. Sometimes you have to rebuild things for new engines or hardware.
But if it doesn't feel better?
Right. If players preferred the old feel, it can seem like wasted effort, fueling that idea of maybe misspent resources. Big pressure to make sure any changes are definite improvements.
And lastly, the villain. Some Nebula 9218 found the alternate Emperor nefarious? Well, bland generic.
Really? Despite the alternate dimension idea.
Yeah, they felt it was just milking the Dr. Nefarious character, that the alternate version didn't feel distinct enough, like a missed opportunity for true originality.
That's tough. Introducing alternate versions is tricky. You need that balance between familiar and fresh. If it feels too much like a rehash, especially for a main villain,
It can fall flat.
especially after a long wait. Fans expect something truly new, and if the villain feels recycled, it can feel like creative coasting.
Okay, so we've heard the fan side, the worries, the perceived issues with the game itself. It definitely paints a picture of, well, tension.
Real concerns there.
But now we need to flip the coin. Look behind the curtain at the realities of making these huge games today, because this isn't just a Ratchet & Clank thing.
Absolutely not. It's industry-wide. Like Lombax's Lunchbox said on Reddit, longer development isn't a rift-apart problem, it's just how games are made now.
Right, and Canasur added, games are taking longer to make each year. We may be forced to learn patience as gamers. That's blunt.
But probably true. It's a fundamental shift. Creates a different kind of tension, almost an unavoidable one for players and developers. What's the real cost of pushing the boundaries?
And a massive part of that cost is graphics, isn't it? That relentless push for visual fidelity.
Oh, huge. Typhlosion Normaldo 87 and Aster 6000 nailed it. High polygraphical fidelity, photorealistic demands.
We're talking character models with like millions of tiny polygons making up every detail.
Exactly. Compared to the simpler models of the past, it's exponentially more complex. Like Aster 6000 said, the standard to just look average is incredibly high now.
So these models are way more intricate.
Magnitudes more.
Hmm.
And that needs top-tier artists who cost more, which makes AAA game development incredibly expensive.
And take longer.
And take much, much longer. That visual ambition directly feeds into the production timeline. It raises the stakes for every single texture, every lighting effect.
It's kind of an arms race for polygons.
It really is. And for a PS5 exclusive from Insomniac, the expectations were sky high. They delivered stunning visuals, no doubt, but that beauty has a time and money cost.
Which leads to those longer waits fans worry about.
Precisely. It forces tough choices. It makes you think maybe this chase for peak realism is a luxury we're paying for with fewer, slower game releases.
And that sparks that debate you mentioned, art styles. Does it have to be photorealistic?
Right. The Reddit discussion about lower poly and stylized art styles being quicker, cheaper, maybe even looking great in their own way.
Candasaur suggested more studios might shift back to stylized art, especially for cartoonish games like Ratchet or Sonic, just because realism is getting so hard and expensive to do.
It's a critical point for the future, I think. Stylized art can be timeless, allow more creative freedom, potentially shorten dev cycles. Is chasing realism always the best path?
Or is it becoming a trap?
Maybe. It makes us think, should we value unique art direction just as much as, or maybe even more than, raw pixel count?
And if you try to rush this super complex high-fidelity process...
Disaster, usually. As Typhlosionar Armaldo 87 warned, if deadlines don't match the time needed, you get buggy rushed, unfinished games or massive, expensive day-one patches.
We've all been there. Bought a game that needed immediate fixing.
It puts developers in a terrible bind. Push for visual perfection, meet market demands for release dates. Something has to give. Extend development. Fans get impatient. Costs go up. Release early. Reputation takes a hit. Players lose trust.
A lose-lose, like you said.
Absolutely. It really raises the stakes for every single launch these days.
Okay, but let's talk about Insomniac's specific vision for Rift Apart. Because they weren't just making another Ratchet game, they were aiming for major PS5 innovation.
Definitely. Game director Mike Daly was clear. Built from the ground up for PS5.
And the key was the SSD, right? The solid-state drive?
Absolutely central. Daly said the whole dimension hopping thing would not have been possible without the solid-state drive. It's not just about faster loading between levels.
It's about loading entirely new worlds, instantly.
Exactly. Streaming all those unique assets, textures, geometry for a completely different planet in, what, under a second? That's the SSD eliminating bottlenecks. Creative director Marcus Smith called it screamingly fast, a total game changer.
So that core mechanic, the rifts, depended on the new hardware. It explains why it had to be a PS5 game, and maybe why it took time to get right.
It's a perfect example of hardware enabling new gameplay. Not just prettier graphics, but fundamentally different experiences. Seamlessly jumping between worlds isn't just tech wizardry. It shapes how you play, the scale, the dynamism.
It makes the case for console exclusives really pushing the envelope.
For sure. When hardware and software are designed together like that, you get leaps like Rift Apart. Maybe that justifies the longer waits.
And the creative spark for this dimension hopping. This is fascinating. Marcus Smith said it came from watching It's a Wonderful Life.
The classic movie. Right.
Yeah. It made them ask, what would Ratchet's life be like if he didn't have a Clank? That question, that core idea, drove the whole game.
Wow. That adds such a meaningful layer. Taking that concept of parallel lives, missed connections, and applying it to Ratchet and Clank, that's a powerful emotional hook.
Gives it depth beyond just cool tech.
Totally. It builds curiosity, allows for exploring themes of identity, friendship, choices, makes the game resonate on a deeper level.
And that core question naturally led them to Rivet.
The new Lombax character, right?
Yeah. Mike Daly explained her introduction was deliberate. Engage new players and veterans with someone fresh, someone everyone meets on a level playing field.
Smart. A way to welcome newcomers.
Plus, it allowed for more diversity. Lead animator Lindsay Thompson described Rivet as having a tough exterior, but never cynical, dark, or cruel. And they got Jennifer Hale to voice her.
Big name voice actor. Commander Shepard herself.
Exactly. So Rivet wasn't just a palette swap, she was a carefully crafted character meant to bring something new.
And that directly counters some of those fan worries about missing old characters, doesn't it? Rivet was a strategic move. Fresh perspective, broader appeal, diversity, and crucially, she was well written and performed. A fully realized character.
Proof that new additions can really strengthen this series.
If done well, absolutely.
And they didn't just add characters, they refined the movement too. they took lessons from Sunset Overdrive and Spider-Man.
There are other big traversal-heavy games.
Right. Smith and Daly talked about creating these fluid sequences, chaining moves like the hookshot, phantom dash, wall running, rift tethering, making movement feel more expressive, more fun.
That shows their iterative process, learning from past projects, even different genres, to improve the core feel. Making just moving around feel good is huge for player enjoyment.
It shows more can mean more polished, more fluid gameplay.
Definitely.
Now here's something huge, maybe easily missed, but a real triumph.
Accessibility.
Ah, yes, this was impressive.
Like Daly called it one of our gameplay pillars. They pushed hard for accessibility, building on what they did in Spider-Man, Miles Morales. They even dedicated a whole State of Play segment to it.
Which is a big statement, using that prime spotlight time.
It really is. It shows their values go beyond just graphics or story. It raises the stakes for making games truly inclusive. And it's so important. This isn't just a nice to have. It's about opening up gaming to people who might otherwise be shut out. It makes the game enjoyable for the broadest audience possible, as Daly put it.
Changes the conversation about what success means, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It moves beyond sales and scores to ethical responsibility. The sheer number of options they included is staggering difficulty, combat assists, visual shaders, controls, everything. It sets a benchmark.
And even the photo mode got incredible attention. Daly called it a real labor of love by a passionate team.
The level of detail was crazy, right?
Insane. Full character posing, changing expressions, dyeing armor, even applying ray tracing, that super realistic light simulation, to individual pixelizer cubes in photo mode.
That's dedication.
And Daly pointed out it lets people appreciate the visuals even without a PS5 through shared pictures. It's more than just the side feature. It shows real developer passion.
It understands the community aspect too. Players love sharing cool shots. Giving them powerful tools fosters that engagement, extends the game's life, builds community. It shows more can also mean more player creativity.
Okay, so we've balanced the fan concerns with the developer realities and intentions. Now let's focus squarely on the results, the undeniable triumphs of Rift Apart. Because it really did knock it out of the park in many ways.
No question. Critically, it was a huge success. Generally favorable reviews, landed an 88 on Metacritic. That's a top-tier score.
Place it right up there among the best games that year, and the visuals. Critics just went wild.
Dazzling visuals, yeah. That Playable Pixar comparison came up a lot.
Stunning vistas, IGN praised the incredible art and sound design. The lighting, the ray tracing really showed off the PS5. Super sharp visual fidelity, PlayStation's own site said.
And that visual ambition we talked about.
Yeah.
Clearly, it paid off critically. It wasn't just technically impressive. It enhanced the whole experience, made the world beautiful and immersive.
Yeah.
Proved that sometimes that extra polish is worth the wait.
Gameplay got high marks too. IGN called it series best action platforming gameplay. GameSpot praised the inventive weaponry and smooth controls.
That core loop shooting, dodging, platforming, they nailed it. Critics felt the enemy combinations were used really effectively too.
Which is vital for Ratchet, right? The fun factor has to be there.
Absolutely. All the tech means nothing if the basic act of playing isn't fun. This confirms they kept that core strong, maybe even improved it.
Story and characters also got rave reviews. IGN compared the narrative to Pixar, again, emotional depth mixed with great comedy.
Terrific.
Huge hit with critics. They said she and the other new characters added so much charm, wit, and heart. Next Computer Review said the story explored new dimensions, but kept the series' heart.
That's such a strong validation for introducing her. It shows that despite some sand nostalgia for the old crew, Rivet really worked, adding a lot to the game's appeal. A well-executed new character can absolutely carry the emotional weight.
And of course, the PS5 hardware usage was a standout. Critics hammered this point home. It made the most of the power of the PS5.
The DualSense controller feedback was a big part of that.
Yeah, haptic feedback and adaptive triggers, making combat come alive. Each weapon feeling different in your hands, feeling the trigger resistance, the recoil.
Plus the 3D audio creating those immersive soundscapes.
And the star. That near instant loading. Planet hopping with abandon, as the official site put it. Truly seamless transitions.
It just reinforces that this was a true next-gen showcase. Built for the PS5, using its features not just as gimmicks, but as core parts of the experience. That deep integration is a major achievement.
And the awards flooded in. Best Visual Design at the Golden Joysticks, multiple DICE awards including Animation and Technical Achievement, GDC awards for visual art and technology, BAFTAs for animation and technical achievement.
Wow, that's a serious haul.
Plus nominations for Jennifer Hale as Rivet. It cemented its place as an industry leader.
That level of peer recognition is huge. Confirms its status beyond just reviews acknowledged by other developers for its technical and artistic excellence.
Now, let's hit that commercial success again, because this directly addresses the core fan anxiety. Remember those fears about it not selling well enough?
Right, it's not Spider-Man worry.
Well, that leaked data showed something very different. Despite some early projection worries, it ended up making $64 million in profit on an $81 million budget. That's an 80% ROI.
An 80% return,
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. It shipped 2.7 million units by early 2022, sold over 3.97 million by mid-2023. So, while maybe not Spider-Man numbers, it was highly profitable.
Okay, that completely changes the narrative. That data shows the franchise is financially healthy, very viable. It wasn't a disappointment, it was a solid moneymaker. That should really calm some of those fears about it being sidelined for poor performance.
It proves the audience is there and willing to buy it. And the launch was huge, too.
How big?
Second biggest launch for the series in the UK, only behind the 2016 remake. Second biggest physical PS5 launch overall at the time, behind Miles Morales. And #1 selling game in the US in its release month.
Bestseller in the US. That's significant, especially for an early PS5 exclusive. Shows massive initial excitement and strong brand power. Helped sell consoles, no doubt.
Okay, let's dig into some of the specific gameplay elements that made it great. Weapons first, always a highlight.
Gotta have crazy weapons.
Oh yeah. Burst pistol, topiary sprinkler, shatter bomb. But classics return too, like the Glove of Doom. Spawns those little Agents of Doom bots. Always fun.
A fan favorite for sure. What else stood out?
The lightning rod. Full auto, homing shots, electrifies and stuns enemies, even spreads electricity. Great crowd control.
Nice tactical element.
And maybe the best crowd control. The topiary sprinkler turns enemies into hedge sculptures. They just stand there taking damage. Hilarious and effective.
That's classic Ratchet humor right there. Using absurdity as a game mechanic. Love it.
Then you've got the heavy hitters, like the Negatron Collider, big beam, penetrates enemies. But the ultimate weapon.
The RYNO. Always the RYNO.
Or RYNO 8. This one opens mini rifts and pulls in objects from other PlayStation games.
Wait, what?
Like a Thunderjaw robot dinosaur from Horizon Zero Dawn, Sly Cooper's van. Games Radar called it maybe the best gun in any video game ever.
That is brilliant. Tying the multiverse theme directly into the ultimate weapon. And the fan service. Pulling in stuff from Horizon, Sly, that's inspired. Pure chaotic fun.
Totally. And traversal was just as fun. Zipping around with gadgets like the Phantom Dash for evasion, grin rails, hover boots.
Made getting around part of the enjoyment, not a chore.
Yeah.
Building on what they learned from Sunset Overdrive and Spider-Man. Fluid, expressive movement.
Collectibles were great too, often with real purpose. Like the Krager Bears.
The teddy bears. What was the story there?
9 of them hidden around. A tribute to Craig Goodman, a Ratchet & Clank art designer who sadly passed away, adds a really touching layer to finding them.
Wow, that's lovely. A meaningful collectible.
And the Lorbs on Savali. Finding these Lumbax altars unlocked audio logs, but they were packed with references to other PlayStation games. Little Big Planet, Jak and Daxter, Sly Cooper, Knack.
More multiverse nods. Weaving other series into the lore itself through collectibles. Very clever. Rewards observant players.
Then you had Spybots needed to unlock the RYNO direct motivation there, Blizon crystals on certain planets that actually let you shift dimensions on the spot, integrated into the level design.
So collectibles weren't just fluff, they tied into mechanics and rewards.
Exactly. And Zerp stones on Sargasso, which you needed the flying Mount Trudy to collect, rewarding armor and another Spybot, made collecting feel like part of the adventure. The game was also loaded with Easter eggs, according to the gamer. Little nods everywhere.
Like what kind of things?
In Zerky's bar, you could find Drek the Sheep referencing the 2016 remake villain, an arcade cabinet playing footage from the All-for-One co-op game,
Fun little callbacks.
a wrench skin that looks suspiciously like the Keyblade from Kingdom Hearts, and gold bolt sheets let you change the bolts you collect into orbs from God of War, rupees from Zelda, or coins from Super Mario.
Ah, breaking the fourth wall there, pulling in stuff from Nintendo and Square Enix too. Playful.
And some were super subtle. A blink and you'll miss it potted plant falling from a portal during a boss fight. A Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy reference. A billboard for the Protopet from Going Commando seen during a rift jump.
Those deep cuts are great. Rewards the really dedicated fans, shows the devs' love for the details, for pop culture, adds layers of discovery.
And finally, let's just underline those accessibility features again, because the sheer scope was a triumph.
It really deserves highlighting.
Multiple difficulty levels, tons of combat assist, toggle hold options for aim and fire, strong aim assist, auto aim, lock on, traversal assists too, like ledge guards, auto glide, simplified inputs.
Just an incredible range of options to tailor the core gameplay to different needs and preferences. It's about empowering players.
Visual options galore. Brightness, contrast, high contrast shaders for everything, backgrounds, characters, enemies, interactables, hazards, collectibles, fine-tuning motion blur, depth of field, film grain, turning off screen shake, customizing the HUD size and colors.
That level of visual customization is amazing. Helps with visibility, reduces fatigue, lets people play comfortably.
Full controller remapping huge, shortcuts for key functions, game speed adjustments down to 30% speed. Detailed vibration and adaptive trigger settings, experiential, functional, or off. Separate audio sliders for everything.
It's just comprehensive, meticulously thought out. It really backs up Mike Daly's statement about enriching lives. It sets a standard for inclusivity that maybe matters more than anything else, shifts the conversation about what makes a game truly successful.
Okay, so we've journeyed through the fan worries, the development realities, the game's massive successes. Now, where does that leave us? How do we reconcile this paradox for Ratchet & Clank going forward?
Well, the game itself was clearly a hit, both critically and financially. That 80% ROI proves its viability, pushes back hard against the idea it's being neglected.
Right. It was a success by almost any measure.
But those fan anxieties about Marvel's Shadow, they are baseless. Insomniac is juggling multiple massive IPs now. The tension isn't about Rift Apart's failure, but about how Ratchet fits into that bigger studio strategy long-term.
Can they sustain that level of quality across all these huge projects without Ratchet getting less frequent or less ambitious?
That's the billion-dollar question, isn't it?
And maybe the more that fans like Von Diesel 2000 wanted was there in Rift Apart, just not in the way they expected.
I mean,
Like maybe more wasn't more familiar characters or old minigames. Maybe it was the more of bleeding-edge tech, the more of Rivet's compelling story, the more of that radical accessibility push. A different kind of more that advanced the series and gaming another way.
that's a really interesting way to frame it, redefining what more means. Not just quantity of content, but quality of innovation, depth of experience, breadth of reach through accessibility.
Maybe the perceived shortness wasn't a lack, but a focus. A tight experience built to showcase those PS5 leaps.
It asks us to evaluate games differently. Is a shorter, incredibly polished, innovative experience potentially more valuable than a longer, more traditional one, especially given the development context?
Which brings us back to that evolving landscape that patience imperative connoisseur mentioned. Are longer waits the unavoidable price for the kind of stunning, complex games like Rift Apart?
It feels like it might be, at least for these AAA graphical showcases.
Yeah.
It creates that tension for us as players. Do we want cutting-edge spectacle, even if it means fewer games, spaced further apart?
What's the trade-off we're willing to accept?
It's a constant negotiation of expectations versus the realities of production. Can we appreciate a masterpiece that arrives once a generation?
And Insomniac's juggling act, that best-case scenario where they expand enough to make all of us happy, doing Marvel and original IPs, how realistic is that?
It's tough. Growth brings complexity. Managing talent, resources, creative focus across multiple blockbusters is incredibly hard. Maybe the Marvel effect isn't about replacing Ratchet, but maybe its success funds the possibility of games like Rift Apart happening at all, even if less often.
Provides the financial stability for those passion projects, even if they are AAA passion projects.
Could be. It raises the stakes for how studios manage their creative bandwidth.
And that standalone storyline in Rift Apart, letting newcomers jump right in while still having layers for veterans. Is that the key to keeping long series like this alive?
It seems like a very smart strategy. Avoid scaring off new players with decades of backstory, broadens the appeal, keeps the franchise growing rather than just catering to the existing base, vital for longevity.
Finally, those unseen stakes, the accessibility focus, it forces us to ask, what value do we put on inclusivity? Is it just good business or is it an ethical must?
Mike Daly's quote about enriching lives really pushes it towards the ethical imperative, doesn't it? It elevates the conversation beyond profit. It's about the social impact that games can have.
Making gaming truly for everyone, it raises the stakes for the whole industry.
Absolutely. That commitment might be Rift Apart's most profound legacy.
And connecting back to that, it's a Wonderful Life inspiration. The game's theme of alternate dimensions, choices, different paths, it almost mirrors the choices Insomniac is facing with the franchise itself, doesn't it?
That's a beautiful parallel. The game's narrative reflecting the real-world questions about the series' future. Which dimension will Ratchet & Clank explore next, both literally and figuratively? Leaves you curious.
So we've covered a lot of ground today, from those deep fan concerns to the industry realities and the huge successes of Ratchet & Clank. Rift Apart.
It really is a fascinating case study. Technology, art, business, fan passion, all colliding.
Yeah, a game that totally succeeded, pushed console boundaries, delivered amazing fun, but also somehow highlighted these bigger anxieties about the future of beloved series in this blockbuster era. That tension is really something.
And it leaves us, and hopefully you listening, with some big questions to chew on. It really sparks curiosity about what comes next.
Right. In this world of expanding game universes, longer development, what does more really mean for the games we love? Is it just frequency, familiarity, or is it innovation, inclusivity, those jaw-dropping experiences, even if they take longer?
How do our own expectations need to shift as players to appreciate this changing landscape? And what role do we play in shaping the future for these characters and stories we care about?
Something to think about as we navigate the Omniverse until our next deep dive.